All right, here we go. There's a lot to talk about. My name's Andrew Kula. Across from me, digitally, is the one, the only Anthony Meglin, superstar of
Superstar.
yeah,
Let's go.
big time proportions. Yes, big time. We got a lot to talk about, man, and we're going to talk a lot about the Packers. We're going to talk about Packers Bears. We're going to talk about the NFL playoffs. But I think to start this all, I want to have a conversation that is kind of Packers adjacent. Last night we were talking a little bit about Steelers, Ravens, dude, and I'm going to ask you a question. And it's Packers adjacent, obviously, because Aaron Rodgers is on the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the average NFL fan truly understands how important special teams are?
I do not think it. I had this conversation. It's funny, Andrew, because I had this conversation, different show, similar topic, not about last night's game, but more so just in general, right? Special teams. What do you do during special teams? If you're at the game, you're going on kickoff, you're going to get a beer or go to the bathroom. If you're at home, you're going to refill your drink or talk to your in-laws in the kitchen. Or if you're flipping channels during kickoffs, or they score a touchdown and you're flipping the channel to go check the other score while the extra point's happening. The average fan does not understand the importance of special teams. It's a third of the game, man. It's a third of the game, and not just on game-winning kicks like that. It is so important from start to finish, first quarter to fourth quarter. And last night was a perfect example of it.
Yeah, we've seen it with the Packers. I think it's actually a really good kind of tie throughout this whole season where their special teams has not focused on those little details, and you can see how just a small detail can take you from a block kick leads to you losing by 2 points. A block kick against the Cowboys leads to a 2-point conversion for the Cowboys on the other end, and then you end up tying that game. A game where 2 points would mean everything, right? And in this game, Steelers-Ravens, which was a pretty, I think it was a terrible game until it wasn't, and then it was an awesome game. God, who's the guy from the Steelers, that kicker, man? I thought he blew it. Boswell. And even just 1 point, man, 1 point matters so much in this league, especially when it comes down to playoff time.
Dude, Andrew, that's the funny part that I find myself thinking about is that when the season comes to a close, and like honestly, week 18 for as many games that didn't matter throughout the weekend, I thought it was a really fascinating weekend of football, and I thought there was so much that happened that changed the course of the playoffs, but also changed the course of draft picks, and I actually thought it was like wildly entertaining. But when you sit back and the dust is settled on the regular season, and you look at the Packers 9-7-1, and then you think back to all the times, right? All the times where one thing went the wrong way. You think back to the Cleveland game where where Jordan Love throws the pick and then the Browns hit a walk-off field goal, right? And then you think back to the Cowboys game that you just talked about where one little change gets you a win, or you think back to the Bears game where you don't recover an onside kick, and all those are special teams. Imagine if the Packers were 12-4-1 as opposed to 9-7-1. Or imagine if they were 11-5-1 or 10-6-1. You're not the 7th seed. Maybe you're the 5 seed. Maybe you win the North, right? There's a chance that they cover that onside kick and they go and win the North because of it, right? And it's like it's all comes down to that. And it's amazing to look back at all the missed opportunities throughout the year and what they mean for the long-term postseason run that these teams are going to go on.
It's a game of inches, they say, but those inches come down to details. And more often than not, and I think we've really seen it this year, details make the difference in special teams. So if anybody out there is listening, if you learned anything from us over these last few weeks of podcasts, pay attention to special teams because they actually matter.
Special teams, man.
All right, let's actually get to the Packers in a real sense. Topic 1. WTF is going on out there? That's an old quote from Vince Lombardi, if you remember him on the sideline. What the hell's going on out there? So 16-3 loss to the Vikings to end the season. You mentioned how it was kind of an interesting week 18. I found nothing interesting in that game against the Vikings there. I'm not sure. There's a couple small things that you can take away that were good. Overall, though, I think that it was, thank God, a quick game, but it was a waste of a couple hours. And love to hear, I've got some skin in the game as a fan of the team, but God, I mean, what were you thinking?
While I just said week 18 had some interest to it, It was a game like this that was like, ugh, just like sim it, right? Remember in Madden when you can just sim games, just sim it and get to the next week, because and the truth of the matter is, like, no one did anything wrong, right? It wasn't wrong that the Packers didn't play anybody, and that's not the problem at all. Like, they're locked in at the 7 seed. They weren't going to go up, they weren't going to go down. It was it, and the worst thing you could do is go out there to beat the Vikings in a meaningless football game and get somebody hurt, right? And that's just not the business you want to be in. But man alive, like, you really see these games. What they really show to me, man, is like we always talk. It's so, you get so stuck in the football season, and it's like, man, this guy sucks, or this quarterback, how can you not make that throw, or whatever. And then you see the third stringers play the first stringers, and you're like, this ain't even on the same planet, right? This, like, let alone some of the starters that may struggle. When you get in and you see what the difference is between starters, backups, and then third string guys or fourth string guys, I mean, they might as well have been playing baseball out there. Like, it was two different sports that were being played. And, you finished the game with -7 passing yards. Yeah. Like, what?
I mean, how does that even happen? So Clayton Tune's our guy here. 6 of 11, 34 yards. But you mentioned -7 with the sacks and all that. I wrote immediately after the game, my thoughts were that this guy's just not an NFL quarterback. And I get that. And he had a nice career in Houston. If you remember, he put up some numbers at Houston. Mm-hmm. What we've seen consistently, though, and this is kind of an offshoot topic, you can be a great college quarterback, as you were, but going from college, even at the high levels, playing at Houston, to the NFL, it's a whole different ballgame, man.
Andrew, those conversations, and it happens a lot in, like, Ohio State world, or used to happen with some of those great Alabama teams, where it's like, hey, would this Ohio State team beat the Cleveland Browns, who were 1-15? And you say that out loud, and you just, like, watch their game on Saturday, and they put up 100 points, and then you watch the horrible Browns, get blown out. But then you sit back and realize, like, oh, those college teams have maybe 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3, 4, 5 college or NFL players. NFL teams have 53 NFL players, right? Where they're all the best on their team. They were the best in their city. They were the best in their high school. They were the best in their state. Maybe they were the best on their college team. Maybe they weren't, but maybe they were just good enough to get an opportunity. And, like, that, it's games like this, Andrew, that show just how elite some of these guys are, because it's fish out of water type stuff when you get a guy in there who just simply can't do it. And there's obviously levels to it, and they just get on display in matchups like the one we watched on Sunday.
I think it's so interesting, and I know we're kind of veering off topic, but even just look at the top quarterbacks from this year in college football. Fernando Mendoza, obviously Heisman winner. I'm not sure he's got an NFL future, and we've seen plenty of Heisman quarterbacks not play in the NFL at anywhere near their level. I don't know how you feel about your guy Julian Sayin at Ohio State, but I don't necessarily think he's ready at this point to make that jump. So it's just it's so interesting to see. And even it makes sense why some of these GMs decide to go for the intangibles and the size, the arm, because they think to themselves, you know what, I can have a coach the rest of this up, but I need somebody who at least has the skill level, talent-wise, to play NFL football.
And I would also add, too, like, they need to be able to think, right? Like, that's the biggest one to me, is because you look at the college game and the pro game, they're so different. Even though you play with the same shape football and you try to score touchdowns in both the same, and you need to get 10 yards for a first down, that's about the only similarities that there are, right? The process of an offense is so different in college than it is to the pros. The process of a quarterback is so different. The responsibility of a quarterback is so different. That's why they always talk about, like, you need to be able to think quickly. And then you realize, you watch a game with Clayton Tune, And you watch a game with Jordan Love, and Jordan Love gets to the line of scrimmage, and he can operate. We watched that game last night, Sunday Night Football with Aaron Rodgers, where his headset goes out in his helmet, and he's calling plays. He threw a little temper tantrum, which we've all seen before, and then he started calling the plays himself, and it was like, oh, yeah, because he's been there. He's done that. He knows what coverage he's getting, and the good ones make the game look so easy. The bad ones make you want to pull your hair out because you're like, oh, my God, dude, like just take a chill pill and just do it like Jordan does it. All right. Jordan makes it look easy. Why can't you? But it's a reminder how special some of those guys are, at the top of their game. And it's sometimes so easy to take it for granted when you watch them week after week after week.
Yep. So this brings up topic number 2. And I think this can be very specific to the Vikings game, but also in a broader sense. So the Packers are in the playoffs. It doesn't feel like they're in the playoffs, though, man. They've lost 4 games in a row. They are reeling after losing Micah Parsons in that Broncos game. That was obviously they were ahead in that game. They ended up losing against the Bears next week. We already talked about it, the botched onside kick. Against the Ravens, they just get beat up. And in this game, they might as well, like you said, you might as well just simulate the game because it didn't matter. So Matt LaFleur made it very clear after the game that losing Christian Watson in Week 18 last season impacted his decision in this one to sit everybody, make sure that they're all healthy. And you and I have talked about this, and I keep harping on it. You need 2 things to make a run. You got to have health, and you got to be hot. LaFleur clearly looked at that and said, well, I can only take care of one of these things right now, so I'm going to focus on health. What do you think?
It's the rest versus rust conversation, and it is, in my opinion, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if I'm the Packers right now, I don't feel good about this at all. You throw out a stinker like that, and I get it. Not any of your guys played. This is a tape. They don't even watch the film, but that stink kind of just like sits around you. Like the players, they don't remember. They don't go into practice thinking about it, but you come out on the field and you just kind of just have maybe small flashbacks to last week, or it's just a bad vibe, in my opinion, that you take into your week of preparation, your week of practice. I don't know, man. I certainly am not in a position, and I don't get paid enough to make the decisions of an NFL head coach, but I tend to think that you need to play your guy. Like you have to play, especially for the Packers who are struggling right now. Right, they're limping into the playoffs, and you're like, man, can they just get a little bit of confidence? And even Andrew, even if it's one drive or a half or a quarter, where it's like, hey, Jordan, you're going out there with the ones. 1 touchdown drive so that you feel good, you see it, you keep your normal process for the week, and then we're putting you in bubble wrap and you're done. And it's like, oh, could we do that instead of doing a full sit out? Yeah, I don't know, man, because the 1 sack you take and Jordan Love breaks his arm, or Christian Watson breaks his leg, and you're like, well, son of a gun, like, this season's over, and throw the playoffs away.
Yeah. God, it's a hard conversation. You're right. We don't get paid enough to make that. I've heard around kind of the Packers universe that, there's mixed reactions to this. I think some people think it was smart. You play it safe. You at least know you're going into this game with Jordan Love healthy. You know that you're going to this game with Josh Jacobs, maybe not healthy, but he's rested. Zach Tom, the right tackle, is as close to healthy as can be. And you didn't suffer injuries to guys like Christian Watson or really your important players. So there's that. What I'm concerned about, Anthony, is that, to me, Matt LaFleur has proven an inability over these past couple of years to kind of get his team focused and prepared. And he seems to be relying on their ability to flip a switch, but I don't think he has the ability as a coach to flip that switch. So, you're a former player. I would think as somebody who's played sports, not anywhere near that level, but like you get excited for things, right? And you're pumped up about a game. And that's what the Packers are talking about now, that they're excited to be in the playoffs. They're excited for a chance. But there's a difference, I think, between excitement and kind of having that fire and that focus that you need to make a run.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And again, I didn't play at this level of NFL football, but I do know, and what's kind of in the DNA of every football player ever, is you get so set in a routine, right? Where Monday you do this, and Tuesday you do this, and Wednesday you do this, and Thursday is this, and Friday is this, and Saturday is this, and Sunday is this, and then you get into this role where, all right, maybe if you play on Thursday night, the week shifts, or if you play on Monday night, the week shifts a little bit. But the concern, Andrew, is that you just took all your most important players out of their routine, because guess what they're used to doing on Sundays at 1:00 or in your case noon or 3:30 or 7. They're used to playing football, and they didn't on Sunday. And like, that's the concerning part to me, is like, you take your guys out of their routine, and you're a parent, you take your kids out of a routine. What do? They go crazy, right? Because they're not used to it. It's a little bit different. They can control like that part of it, but I still think it's like very important that you keep these guys on a routine. And I actually lean the other way. Like, if it were me being the coach of a team and I'm in this position, or if I'm in like the 1 seed position too, think Bears, think whatever. I'm playing my guys for, like I said, like a quarter, right? I want you to get in the huddle. I want you to speak to the team. I want you to take a snap. I want you to read a defense. Maybe I'll keep it super vanilla, so I know that, like, hey, we're not going to keep Jordan Love in the pocket long so he gets a sack or whatever it is, but I'm playing them for a little bit and then getting them out. That would be my philosophy. Is that right? I don't know. It's right or wrong, right? You can tell me it's right or wrong and you have an argument.
Yeah.
But I think that part's kind of important too.
But you know what? We do have the opportunity, and I think at least the experience as people who've watched and analyzed this game to have an opinion. And at least in my opinion, I'd love to hear what you think. What I see and hear when I hear LaFleur talk about this, about being, hearing about Watson, remembering back to Watson going down, wanting to make sure that he's got all his guys in bubble wrap, basically. To me, that's coaching scared. And you can coach scared in high school and probably get away with it. College, it starts to get a little shaky, but that is one thing you cannot do in the NFL. It's a grown man's league. And if you have any bit of timid in you, it's over for you, especially when you're going against a division rival in the Bears now in the playoffs. Like, I just think that they're going to this with the wrong mentality.
Yeah. I scared. I would say I would change that to coaching scarred, because it happened to him last year. And now he's looking at a team where his best defensive players out for the season, his best offensive players out for the season. And he's like, and I think you're right? I think it comes from ultimate concern of, if I lose one more guy, we are going to get boat race next week, and it's there. But you're right. Like, is that the wrong thing to think? Probably, but also too, like, his whole team's beat up too. Yeah. So it's like, where's the middle ground? And that's a really hard needle to thread there.
Yeah, it is. But you can get boat race if you lose Jordan Love or Malik Willis or Christian Watson. You could also get boat race if all those guys are out there and they haven't won a game in 5 weeks. They might not even remember what that feels like to win.
It's very true. They don't even know what success is. That's part of it, man.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I guess that is why we don't get paid that kind of
money. I don't know, man. I always fall in those conversations. And it makes me, it's frustrating because I always land right in the middle. Like, I would say, I think you're right where you can't coach scared, but I also see his perspective. I would say this is where I would land. More so, I would lean your way. Like, these guys got to play. You got to play. They have to taste success before they go into this playoff game, because it is important, right? Because this is a group that hasn't felt success in a month, right? And I do think that's where I would go with it. If I'm putting a gun to my own head, that's where I'm going with it.
Any athlete out there, or any former athlete, or recreational athlete, whenever I was playing basketball and I left the gym, what do? You hit the last shot, right? You want to have that vibe, and that's just something that transcends sports. It's like it's a thing, man. And I don't know if Matt LaFleur doesn't understand that, or maybe he just weighed his options and thought, you know what, I'd rather go this way or that way. So
it's really important too on that front to do it in a game scenario too, because a lot of coaches will say the cop out would be, hey, we had a good week of practice. I felt good on Thursday with them. Throw that out, because it's important to do that on Sundays in the stadium, in the game environment.
Yep. All right, let's go to this game. It's a wild card game. The Packers are the 7th seed. The Bears are the number 2 seed. We were talking over the past couple of weeks. There were opportunities for them to flip flop, and they did flip flop those at least once. The game's going to be in Chicago. We know that the Packers can beat the Bears. They have done it once, and really they should have done it twice. They were 58 minutes away from going 2-0 against the Bears. What are your initial thoughts on this matchup?
I'm turning it to you. Put your fan hat on. The Packers are 1.5-point favorites. The Bears are having their best season of all time. I want fan Andrew. Are you freaking pumped about this or what?
Oh, man. I can't say I am. And I feel like I'm not alone. Just kind of judging kind of the zeitgeist of Packers Nation and Packers fandom, I think we're pretty damn beat up right now. Yeah. You know, you lose 4 in a row. You see your team, in my opinion, again, this is just me, and I know LaFleur had his reasons, but he might as well just said, you know, we're going to forfeit this Week 18 game against the Vikings, and we're not going to go play. And to me, there's just a losing mentality surrounding this team right now. The only 2 things that give me hope. One is that you're in the dance, right? That's all you need. You're in the dance. You win one game any given Sunday, and anything can happen from there. 2, I've seen this team beat the Bears recently, you know, so I know it's possible. They have to follow the formula. I think they need to let Jordan Love rip. Yeah. The Bears have an offense that can really grind it, control the clock. I don't know if their defense can get in a shootout and win that type of game. I do think the Packers still have enough pieces on defense where they can make enough plays in a shootout. So I think you put the ball in Jordan Love's hands and say, listen, go throw for 350, a couple touchdowns. Let's see what happens. And, at the very least, you give it a shot.
The way that, like, I view this in purely fandom perspective, if I'm a Bears fan and or potentially like a Bears player, the one team I didn't want to see, I would have rather seen the Seattle Seahawks on the other side of that line as opposed to the Green Bay Packers because Chicago just put together their best year in a while. They won the North. They're doing all these things. But similar, Andrew, to what the Packers did, they go and they get beat straight up, starters and everything, played 60 minutes and get beat by the Lions. And that doubt, I mean, talk about real doubt in your head. Like that doubt is in there. Like, every game they've played this year, they've had to come back and do something crazy or heroic to win. And sometimes that runs out. Like that's not sustainable and that luck will run out on you. And holy cow, would that not just destroy their season if they do all that stuff. They have a home playoff game. They welcome the big brother and the Packers go and beat them, man. That would be the way I view this is that Green Bay's coming in with house money, man. They're like, hey, this season's been stinky. Like we've lost all our guys. This could be an unbelievable ending to this season. If we go, they're not going to go win the Super Bowl, but if they go and they beat the Bears in Soldier Field, I think that would be pretty amazing if they did that.
It would be cool. I feel like, and I don't mean to diss you when I say this, no. I feel like some of your Browns fandom is coming out here, man.
True. Dude, it is.
Right? Because you're thinking, hell, we can make a big splash in the wild card weekend, have a ton of fun doing it. To me, that's not Green Bay Packers football, man. You know,
that's it. Oh, yes, I think you're dead right. I view this Packers team. I don't view this Packers team as a Super Bowl contender, especially in the NFC. You know, and because of that, it's like, all right, how can you finish? How can you get an ounce of success out of this year where it's gone up and down and up and down and up and down? I think getting to the divisional round, and Andrew too, like. I look back to some of those, those Giants Super Bowls where they limp in as 9-7 or just that last wild card team. You get into the dance, man, and anything goes, right? Anything goes in that. But I think you are right. I'm scarred, and I'm coming from a place of failing football all the time. And you're right.
Yeah.
Like, all of this isn't acceptable in Titletown, right? Like this season is not what you guys want to see and have.
And it's not some like high and mighty. We're on our high horse thing, and sometimes I think Packers fans, we can absolutely come off that way. I think just pragmatically, this team is in a Super Bowl window, right? Yeah. You're paying Micah Parsons a ton of money. You're paying Jordan Love a ton of money. You only have so many years in the way the NFL works with the salary cap to make these kind of runs before you kind of have to tear it down and try again. So this team made an all-in move by going to get Micah Parsons, because remember, we do not have first-round picks for the next 2 years. Now, stuff like that can change, but what that tells me is we're here and we're trying to make a run. So anything other than a Super Bowl in this window is a failure, and it's just the way you have to look at it.
Yeah, yes, you are right. That is all the right things, man. That's a good point.
So let's talk keys to victory. I kind of mentioned I think Jordan Love needs to just air it out. Matt LaFleur, I think we saw in that first game against the Bears, he was a little bit, and against the Lions too, against really all the NFC North opponents besides this last game, he was aggressive, and that worked out in favor of the Packers. What do you see out there? Caleb Williams, what are your thoughts on the way he's ended the season? What do the Packers do here to get a win?
Yeah, I think that when you look at these playoff games, and Packers fans, this, these come down to, we watched a playoff game on Sunday Night Football, and we watched the old man go and get it done, and Aaron Rodgers, where you said it perfectly. That game was a snooze fest for 50 minutes, and then that last 10 minutes was bonkers, right? And it was Aaron Rodgers not only just making plays, but like, hey, 2-minute drill Aaron Rodgers and tempo Aaron Rodgers and being accurate and being situationally great, which he is, all those things. But that stuff comes to the forefront in these big games and big moments. And I think that, like, when you look at Jordan Love compared to Caleb Williams, because ultimately, I had this very discussion in the college sense, but at every level of football, you could look at a Pee Wee game, you could look at high school, Division III football, college, whatever. It ultimately falls on the shoulders of the quarterback. If the team wins the football game, you're going to look at the quarterback and say, you played well. If the team loses the football game, there's going to be a play somewhere in there where you're like, hey, that's on the quarterback. Whether that's right or wrong, that's what it comes down to. And you look at these two quarterbacks and you're like, Caleb's ceiling is like on the moon. He is as good. When he is good, it can be as good as anything. When he's off, it can look really bad and he can get really inaccurate. Whereas Jordan can be really consistent, and then we've seen it all year long. He has that one dodo play where you're like, what the hell are you doing, dude? And it's like, you cut that out, Andrew, and in my opinion, if he can eliminate that stupid boneheaded play, this game specifically, it'll be hard for the Packers to lose, because, like, if he just eliminates that and plays clean football, like, that is, in my opinion, a recipe for success. And you kind of let the young upstart Bears make their mistakes, which they're going to in this high leverage situation.
If you look at the numbers too, the Bears led the NFL in turnover differential. They won their games with that defense. That defense doesn't necessarily have down to down talent, but they're opportunistic, and they've taken the ball away. And I think that's one of my keys to the game, is just control the football, take care of the football, and you have a good chance to come out with a win. And ultimately, in the NFL, and I think we see this as the games get more meaningful, who's your quarterback? That ultimately sometimes decide who's going to end up, going through this thing. And I think the Packers right now, I don't know if they can say this forever, but right now, today, the Packers have the better quarterback between Jordan Love and Caleb Williams. And if you look at the rest of the playoffs, which I want to do now, I just want to talk playoffs in general. I think, at least looking at the NFC, the Packers, you can make a case that, Jordan Love is one of the best quarterbacks in the playoffs, if not the second best behind Matthew Stafford. And, of course, that's depending on your thoughts on Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts.
You look at it, right? You take in, Jordan Love or Sam Darnold.
I'm taking Love.
I'm taking Love. You taking Jordan Love or Caleb Williams, right?
Yep.
Probably we just both talked about taking Love. You taking Love or Jalen Hurts? I'm taking Love. You taking Bryce Young or Jordan Love? I'm taking Jordan Love. Stafford, I'm probably taking Stafford. Yeah. And I'm taking Love over Brock Purdy. And you're like, there you go. And especially with the way that San Francisco's playing too now, like, talk about a beat up group. Like, that team is destroyed. And the Rams are playing good ball. You don't want to catch the Seahawks, though, in my opinion, because that defense, they put it on display in front of the whole world to see. That defense is nasty. That defense is nasty. And they got, and the whole playoff goes through
Seattle.
Yeah, it goes through Seattle. So, like, that'll be tough. But yeah, you're right, man. When you got the quarterback, that is That's not one piece of the puzzle, man. That's a heavily weighted piece. And that's that game changer, man. That can be the difference in a football game, especially one, where it's, coming down to a final play, a final drive, a final quarter, whatever it may be.
Yep. If the Packers beat the Bears, they will go to Seattle, who will play the lowest remaining seed, and that would be the Packers as the 7th.
Do we have to talk about the Packers' memories of playing in Seattle, or no? Should we just leave that?
Let's leave it, because if it doesn't happen, I don't want to have to bring it up, right?
Got it.
We'll really bring it up if we have to bring it up, because
that was me poking. That was me poking a little bit there. Sorry.
That's a house of horrors for Packers fans. Even just the first thing that came to my mind, I didn't even think about the Brandon Bosick thing. I thought about the old the interception that was a touchdown. What they call it with the refs, the replacement?
The replacement refs, the Hail Mary, right, or whatever it was. Yes, that was was that not in like week 1 or something?
It was very early in the season.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's worse out there, so let's not even go down that road. I want to look at the AFC just because we like talking football. Broncos are your number 1 seed. Patriots are number 2. You've got the Jaguars, who are going to be playing the Bills. The Patriots are playing the Chargers, and the Steelers are playing the Texans. I think Aaron Rodgers could get killed in that game by the Texans defense. What are you seeing, even just kind of on a 500 view or 500-foot level on the AFC?
Yeah, if we think there's some uncertainty in who's coming out of the NFC, the AFC is a total crapshoot. It's a total crapshoot. The Denver Broncos, talk about, we were talking about the Bears being a opportunistic team. I'd put the Denver Broncos as a lucky team. This is a group that has just pulled wins out of their butt for the entire year and rolled it to a 14-3 record. Now the playoffs go through Denver, and that's a very hard place to play. The Patriots look every bit the part, but they've played nobody. They've played 2 teams with a winning record on their schedule, which is hilarious to even say, but that's just the case. Or 2 teams for 3 games, because they played the Bills twice. But Jacksonville might be the best team in the entire AFC, and they're playing like with their hair on fire. Pittsburgh's going to have their hands full with Houston. Anytime that Buffalo's in the playoffs with Josh Allen, look out, because he can make a run. And then I think the Chargers are limping in, like similar to how the Packers are limping in, the Chargers are limping in. And Justin Herbert is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. He's playing with a legit broken hand, and like that's really hard to do. And they just don't look the part, but they're tough as nails, man, in what they do as a football team.
All right, one last question for our quarterback about quarterbacks in the playoffs. Is it Stafford? Is he the best quarterback in this thing, or is it Drake May?
I mean, that's hard.
Or maybe Trevor Lawrence.
Dude, for my money, like I got T-Law as like he's like the dark horse. Watching Stafford throw the football reminds me of like how I used to love watching younger Aaron Rodgers throw the football, because Andrew, the ball just jumps out of his hand. It just jumps, and he does everything right. The Monday night game against the Falcons the other week was so weird because he never plays that badly and never makes bad decisions. But I love watching Stafford play, man. That's just quarterback. That's just quarterback at its finest, man. He's just he plays the position perfectly. It's so fun.
4,707 yards, 46 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He is 37 years old. He's been playing in the NFL since 2009. We talk about Aaron Rodgers as an old man, as he is, but Stafford's just right behind him, and he's arguably playing the best football of his career, which is just insane to think about.
And they traded. What's he been in LA for 7 years now, or something like that?
He's been there for a while. It seems like it was just yesterday. But let's see, they traded in 2021 is when he joined the Rams.
Okay, so 5 year. Well, coming up on 5 years now. That's pretty wild. Who do you like coming out of the AFC? I know I just monopolized the entire conversation.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I don't know. I've not watched a ton of AFC football, I'll say. When the Packers took on the Broncos, I was honestly just flabbergasted with how good their defense looked, and they had that physicality, which makes it's like it almost scares you. You're like, oh my God, they're trying to kill these guys out there. And And if your quarterback is the number one thing in the playoffs, number two is going to be defense. And they say defense wins championships. I think they've got a pretty good quarterback too in Bo Nix, so that they've kind of got that 1-2 tandem where I can see them making a run. Plus, love him or hate him, they've got a good coach.
Yeah. And a coach that's been there and done that. That's also part of it too, man. Like you get some of these veteran coaches, you get Tomlin, you get Sean Payton, you get some of these guys who've done it before. Like that's really important compared to Ben Johnson, who's never been there before, right? And it's going to be your first time. All that stuff factors in.
Or Liam Cohen, is that his name down
there? Move on.
Yeah, geez, I've never gotten over that moment. Still, I've judged him since, and it turns out he's a pretty darn good coach. So
he made Baker Mayfield look like an MVP candidate last year. He's making Trevor Lawrence look the same this year. He's got it going on, man. He knows the game of football.
I think my last thought, and maybe we can end with this for all of our Packers fans. I would love to see wily old vet Aaron Rodgers just make one more run, man, because there was a moment at the end of that Ravens-Steelers game where he had the ball at the end, and you could just feel it. Like you could see it in his eyes, man, that he knew exactly what he was going to do. And we're probably never going to see something like that again. So I'd love to see just one more, put him with the wily old Tomlin. And there's just something about that they could maybe be fun to watch.
I'll put my biases aside because seeing Pittsburgh make a run would be nothing worse than that, or nothing less or whatever. I would hate to see it, but you're so right. My thought, Andrew, I swear to God, my thought when the Ravens scored, when Zay Flowers scored the go-ahead touchdown, I go, he should have went down. Like
too much time,
literally, and it was 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
No timeouts. Didn't even need him.
And I was like, he should have went down. They should have took it to the 2-minute warning. And you're never going to say that, go score, right? But in a real world, you want to take that down. I would have run the ball twice to get it to about 1:30 and then try to score because Aaron's gonna get you, man.
He's incredible the way he's able to do that. So it's going to be fun to watch this first weekend of football. Wild card weekend is always – there's always something crazy that happens.
Crazy, man. It's so good.
We're going to talk next Monday and say, can you believe this happened or that happened? And
it's Thursday. It's Thursday, college football semifinal. Friday, college football semifinal. Saturday, 2 games. Sunday, 3 games. Monday, a game. Are you kidding me?
You can't beat them. How's everybody doing over in Buckeye Land? Are they pretty upset?
Not good. Not good, Andrew.
Not good, Bob.
You imagine the worst days of Fire Matt LaFleur in Packer world. Buckeye Land is in that world right now. It's not good over there.
Literally, they still have last year's championship in their back pocket, and they're already talking about firing right now.
Mm-hmm. It's not good enough. They're getting killed in the transfer portal. It's all sorts of stuff. It's crazy. Cool. It's crazy.
Cool. Well, there's probably a lot of overlap in the way that you think about winning and championships between Packers and Buckeyes.
The expectation is national championship, and that's a hard world to live in, man. That's a very, very tough world to live in, but that's where the Packers are at, and that's the reality. So don't care if you're 9-7, 10-7, 16-0, whatever it is, you got to go get it done.
Got to go win. You can't call yourself Title Town without some titles. So we'll see what happens. At the very least, the Packers have a chance to try to get it done. So we'll talk next Monday. It'll be fun. And until then, everybody take care.